You've heard it 1,000 times. It's just calories in, calories out. The equation is simple, right? Eat less than you burn, and you'll lose weight. But if you're over 40, probably even some people younger, and trying to build real world strength endurance, that equation alone is like trying to run a marathon in flip flops. So it's not going to be just about the numbers, it's also how your body responds to the stress you put it under. So we're going to be breaking down why calories in, calories out model is a starting point. It's the base equation, but it's not the whole story. We'll dive into the science of metabolic adaptation, the role of hormones, the impact of stress and sleep, and why fitness trackers can be very misleading. So if you're serious about building strength and endurance that lasts, you need to understand the full picture. Let's start with the foundation. Strip away all the fads, the Instagram hacks, the detox shakies. What you're left with is the energy balance equation. Calories in minus calories out equals energy stored. Sounds simple. Eat less, move more, burn more calories than you take in, and you'll lose weight. Flip it and you'll gain. That's the skeletal truth. But like most things in the human body, the devil lives in the details. So the calories in means every single calorie you put into your mouth. Food, alcohol, supplements with calories, even the random handful of months you don't think counted. It all goes into that ledger. And then calories out isn't just about your workouts. It's a layered system. And this is when people really get lost into the weeds. First up, you have your resting metabolic rate, your RMR. This is your baseline burn, the energy it takes to keep you alive, breathing, circulating blood, repairing cells, running your brain. Roughly 60 to 70% of your daily expenditure is in this silent burn. And yes, it does change with age, lean mass, and even sleep. A 2021 paper in Science showed that metabolism doesn't nosedive in the way people claim it until much later in life. But your RMR is still influenced heavily by how much muscle you carry. You lose that muscle and your furnace runs cooler. Then you have physical activity. This is the one everyone overestimates. Training hard for an hour doesn't erase a day of poor eating and sedentary living. Even brutal workouts don't burn as much as people imagine. Most people clock in a few hundred calories per session. That's a slice of pizza. And your daily steps, they matter just as much as your gym time. Then we have the thermic effect of food. Every time you eat, your body burns calories just to break it down. Protein has the highest cost. Up to 20 to 30% of the calories can be lost in digestion. So carbs are a middle ground. And then fat is cheap and easy to store. This is one of the most highest reasons higher protein diets often work better for fat loss. They literally cost more energy to process. And then last but not least, you have non-exercise activity thermogenesis, NEAT. This is the wild card, the unconscious movements, fidgeting, pacing, standing instead of sitting, even how animated you are when you talk while doing a YouTube video. Research in Mayo Clinic proceedings has shown that NEAT can vary by up to 2,000 calories per day for certain individuals. If you're a fidgeter, you're burning a lot of food. Two people can eat the same amount of food, do the same workout, and one stays lean while the other gains weight. The difference? One of them subconsciously moves more throughout the day. So yes, the equation holds in the lab, but you don't live in a lab. You live in the chaos of real life with stress, poor sleep, hormones shifting after 40, jobs that keep you sitting for 10 hours a day, and metabolism that adapts when you diet for too long. The equation is never wrong, but it's incomplete when you ignore the context. Calories in versus calories out is like the rules of chess. The rules don't change, but the game is infinitely complex when you start playing. That's why you can't just rely on your smartwatch telling you you burn 500 calories a day. A study in the Journal of Personalized Medicine showed fitness trackers can be off by as much as 40 to 80% for calorie burn. That's not a rounding or error. That's the difference between losing fat and wondering why the scale is not budging. So remember this about the equation. The math is real. The variables are messy. And those variables become even more predictable at certain stages of your life. This is why people get tripped up. They think they're doing the math when in reality their inputs and outputs are a guessing game. The law of energy balance does not lie, but how your body applies it depends on moving parts underneath the surface. Now, let's dive into metabolic adaptation. When you create a calorie deficit, whether by eating less, exercising more, or both, your body doesn't just shrug and accept the change, it will push back. This phenomenon is called metabolic adaptation, and sometimes referred to as adaptive thermogenesis. It's your body's survival mechanism, hardwired through evolution to protect against starvation. At its core, metabolic adaptation means that your metabolism becomes more efficient when calories are restricted. Your body learns to run on less energy, slowing down how much it burns at rest and during activity. This is not just theory, it's well documented science. Research by Hall et al. In 2016 actually showed that during caloric restriction, total energy expenditure decreases more than what you'd expect based solely on fat and muscle loss. In other words, if you lose 20 pounds, the drop in metabolism is greater than just the energy needs of those missing 20 pounds. Your body has actively downregulated its engine to conserve energy. One of the most striking demonstrations of this was seen in the follow-up studies of participants from The Biggest Loser. After their dramatic weight loss, researchers found that even 6 years later, their resting metabolic rates remained suppressed, burning hundreds of calories less per day than predicted. Despite regaining much of the weight, their bodies were still in energy conservation mode. That's metabolic adaptation at work, and it's for people over 40, the problem is even magnified. Here's why. Hormonal shifts, particularly in men also. Testosterone naturally declines with age, and this hormone isn't just about libido, it plays a crucial role in maintaining muscle mass and metabolic rate. Less testosterone means less muscle. Less muscle means fewer calories burned at rest. Then you have loss of muscle mass. Beginning around age 35 to 40, men and women can lose up to 1 to 2% of muscle per year if they do not actively fight it with strength training and adequate protein. Since muscle is metabolically active tissue, its decline accelerates the slowdown of your resting metabolic rate. And then you have leptin and ghrelin. These hunger-regulating hormones also shift with dieting and age. Leptin, your satiety hormone, drops when you diet, while ghrelin, the hunger hormone, increases. The result? You're going to feel hungrier while simultaneously burning fewer calories. Double punishment. And then you have NEAT suppression. Another sneaky part of metabolic adaptation is a reduction in spontaneous activity. Without realizing it, you will fidget less, stand less, move less when in caloric deficit. This subconscious downshifting activity can cost you hundreds of calories per day. You can see why fat loss gets harder as we age, or depending on certain circumstances, various disease states. You're eating less, but burning less at the same time. And the older you get, the more aggressively your body seems to cling to its energy reserves. Metabolic adaptation is not a death sentence. It's a hurdle. Yes, your body will fight back, but that doesn't mean fat loss is impossible. It just means the strategies you use at 25 will not work at 45. You cannot crash diet and expect permanent results. You have to build muscle, support your hormones, and train smarter, not just harder. Metabolic adaptation is an enemy, but it's also a reminder of what your body was built to do to survive. So if you want to thrive, you need to outthink it, not just outwork it. Next up, hormones. Hormones are not just background players in metabolism. They're the conductors of the orchestra, influencing how efficiently you burn fuel, how hungry you feel, and how your body decides to store or release fat. After 40, shifts in hormonal sympathy become more apparent, and ignoring them is like trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. First up, testosterone and growth hormone. Declines in testosterone and growth hormone are among the most impactful changes. Lower testosterone doesn't mean just reduced muscle mass. It also affects the red blood cell production, recovery capacity, and even motivation to train. Growth hormone, which peaks during deep sleep, is essential for tissue repair. Growth hormone, which peaks during deep sleep, is essential for tissue repair, metabolization, and maintaining lean mass. Together, these declines create a slower engine effect. Fewer calories burned at rest, less recovery from training, and an uphill battle for muscle preservation. Another critical shift happens with insulin. As muscle mass decreases and visceral fat increases, insulin sensitivity tends to decline. This makes it harder to manage blood sugar and easier to store fat, even at calorie levels that previously maintained weight. That's one reason why men often notice that midsection changing despite eating the same as before. Your dad bod starts creeping in. Strength training and proper nutrient timing can help combat this, but the hormonal headwind is real. Then you have cortisol in your stress levels. Cortisol, that primary stress hormone, becomes more problematic with age, not just because stress increases, but because recovery from stress slows down. Chronically elevated cortisol will drive fat storage, particularly in the abdominal region, and it also will accelerate muscle breakdown, worse even, Cortisol interferes with testosterone production, compounding the problem that we face with aging. The result is a feedback loop. More stress means more cortisol, which means less testosterone, which means slower metabolism, which means higher fat storage, which then compounds and goes around in a circle at this point. Next up, thyroid. The thyroid is the body's metabolic throttle, and even subtle decreases in thyroid hormone output can slow energy expenditure. Subclinical hypothyroidism becomes more common with age and often goes undiagnosed because the changes are so gradual, like fatigue, difficulty losing weight, and feeling colder than usual are brushed off as just getting older. But this reduction in thyroid efficiency can quietly shave hundreds of calories off daily energy burn. Then you have leptin and ghrelin. Hunger regulating hormones also shift with age. Leptin, which signals you're satiated, becomes less effective. Your brain doesn't get the "I'm full" message as strongly. Meanwhile, ghrelin, that hunger stimulating hormone, can rise with poor sleep or dietary restriction. The double hit creates a scenario where you're burning fewer calories while simultaneously feeling hungrier. It's a perfect storm for weight gain. When viewed together, these hormonal shifts explain why people feel like their bodies are fighting back. It's not just about calories, it's also a complex hormonal environment that tilts the odds towards fat storage and muscle loss. Recognizing this reality means training and nutrition strategies must adapt. Strength training, prioritizing sleep, managing stress, and addressing hormone health directly aren't luxuries. They're non-negotiables. If you want to perform, look, and feel your best at this point in the second half of life, you need to do these. Next up, sleep. Chronic stress and inadequate sleep are two of the most underestimated drivers of weight gain and metabolic dysfunction in your second half of your life. While diet and exercise get most of the attention, the reality is that without proper stress management and sufficient sleep, even the best training plan or nutrition program will hit a wall. When the body is under stress, it releases cortisol. Cortisol is not inherently bad. It's not evil. It's not something out to get you, and it actually plays a very vital role in energy regulation, inflammation control, and the body's natural fight or flight response. It's a good tool. The problem, like with all tools, arises when it's used too often. It will stay elevated for long periods of time, as what happens in chronic stress. Persistently high cortisol levels shift the body into a state that favors fat storage, particularly in that abdominal region, their dad bod again. At the same time, it increases cravings for calorically dense comfort foods, often leading to overeating and disrupted appetite regulation. Who has ever eaten their feelings? I know I have. Over months and years, this stress-induced metabolic shift can sabotage fat loss efforts and promote central obesity. It's a risk factor for cardiovascular disease and insulin resistance. Sleep, which is closely intertwined with stress, is equally critical. Poor sleep doesn't just leave you groggy, it throws key hunger-regulating hormones off balance. Leptin will decrease, ghrelin will increase. The double hit creates a powerful drive to eat more even when caloric needs haven't changed. Research by Kovason et al. In 2022 demonstrated that restricted sleep led participants to consume significantly more calories, particularly from fats and proteins, suggesting the lack of sleep doesn't just make you want to eat more, it alters what you even crave. As we get older, recovery demands are higher, hormonal resilience is lower, and the margin for error is smaller compared to our younger years. Stress and sleep together create a feedback loop. Poor sleep heightens stress reactivity, and stress in turn makes it harder to achieve restorative sleep. Breaking this cycle requires more deliberate effort. Strategies such as consistent sleep routines, minimizing late-night screen exposure, practicing relaxation techniques, and setting clear work-life boundaries can all have outsized effects on our long-term health. Addressing stress in sleep is no longer optional. It's foundational. Without them, sustainable weight management and performance are virtually impossible. Now we're going to dive into fitness trackers and how they should be a guide and not gospel. Fitness trackers have become nearly universal among people trying to improve their health and fitness. I wear one all the time too. They promise real-life feedback, step counts, calorie burn estimates, heart rate monitoring, even sleep quality assessments. They can be a motivating tool, providing accountability and tangible record of progress. But while they have their benefits, the critical mistake is treating their devices as infallible truth. Multiple studies have shown that fitness trackers often overestimate calorie expenditure, sometimes as much as 20 to 40%. That means that what your watch tells you burning 600 calories during a workout might have only cost you 400. Over time, the gap creates a dangerous illusion. If you reward yourself with food based on those inflated calorie burn numbers, you can easily wipe out any progress and even start gaining weight instead of losing it. For people that are already fighting slower metabolisms, hormonal shifts, and recovery challenges, this miscalculation will add up quickly. But that does not mean trackers are worthless. Think of them as a compass and not a GPS. They give you direction, patterns, trends, but they cannot give you pinpoint accuracy. The true value lies in observing long-term behaviors. Are you consistently hitting your 8 to 10,000 steps per day? Is your resting heart rate gradually lowering over time? Do your workouts show tighter average heart rates at the same pace, suggesting improving efficiency? These patterns are far more useful than obsessing over calories burned metric flashing on your wrist. More importantly, you should listen to your own body first. Your energy levels, strength in your workouts, recovery between sessions, and even mood are more accurate reflections of your health than what a device reports. Trackers can't measure your discipline, your grit, or your resilience when life piles on stress. So wear the tracker, collect the data, but understand its limitations. Use it as a guide for consistency and not to dictate your nutrition or training choices. The real measure of progress is found on how you feel, how you perform, and whether you're becoming more capable in that real world and not just on an app screen. While the calories in, calories out equation provides a simple framework, it's far from the full picture of human performance and body composition. Yes, energy balances matters more than anything else. But that equation doesn't always behave as expected. And that's because your body is not a calculator. It's an adaptive living system. Metabolic adaptation, shifting hormone levels, the impact of chronic stress, sleep quality, even imperfect data from fitness trackers all change how your body processes food and recovers from training. This means you can eat by the numbers, hit your macros, and still feel stuck. You can log every calorie, run every mile your watch tells you to, and still wonder why progress has stalled. The reason isn't the lack of effort, it's that the variables are more complex than the simplified math suggests. A metabolism under stress downshifts. Hormones like testosterone and cortisol hit the playing field. Sleep sabotages both recovery and appetite control, and devices that overestimate calorie burn can create the illusion of a bigger energy deficit that actually exists. The takeaway here is simple, but not easy. Stop chasing shortcuts and start playing the long game. Build a balanced approach. Diet and nutrition with whole foods that support recovery and muscle growth. Train with intent. Strength works for durability, conditioning for endurance, mobility for longevity. Manage stress like it's part of your program because it is. And prioritize sleep like it's your most important supplements. And use tools like trackers as feedback, not gospel truth. This is the foundation of real-world strength and endurance. It's not about the hacks. It's about discipline, consistency, and adjusting intelligently as your body changes. If this video gave you clarity, hit the like, subscribe, and share it with someone else who needs to hear it. Remember, building lasting strength and endurance isn't a quick fix. It's a journey. Stay consistent, stay informed, and keep pushing forward.